Hello everybody. I hope you and your loved one are in good health. Do you hear me?
Oui, bonjour, c'est Bousquet.
Bonjour. So we can start this session of operational research. So welcome, and I want to congratulate you that your paper has been accepted for presentation. In order to make our session a success, I would like to ask you to follow a few guidelines. So the presentation must be in English. The time allocated for each speech is 5-10 minutes, including questions.
Yeah, I see the
And
presentation.
you have a maximum of 12 for the minutes for the presentation. Please disable your mics unless you are the presenter and during questions. Have fun and enjoy this scientific event. I would like to inform you that the session chairs have to choose the best paper for each session based on some criteria such as scientific contribution, English and respect for time, interactivity and question answers, and mastery of the subject matter. So we start with the first participant, Salwa Said.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. So you can share your desktop and you present your paper entitled and identification and assessments of risks affecting socio-technical systems resilience. The floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Salwa Said, and today I'm going to present our paper entitled Identification and Assessment of Risks Affecting Socio-Technical Systems Resilience. So in order to do this, we will start with an introduction. Then we will outline the diverse resilience metrics and propose a method to evaluate the impact of risks on the selected metrics. Thereafter, we will establish a checklist for resilience plans assessment. The proposed risk matrix will be detailed after. The case study that is used to validate our proposed method will be exposed penultimately. And finally, conclusions will be made and opportunities for future research will be discussed. So, in a previous work of ours, we have considered that risk assessment is a function of resilience process performed in ordinary circumstances to anticipate the potential threats and their impact on the process resilience. In fact, the relationship between resilience and risk is widely discussed in the scientific literature. Those two notions are inversely related. That is to say, more resilient systems are less exposed to risk when confronted with adverse events or shocks. From the opposite point of view, limited risk facing a system during a crisis results in increasing the resilience of that system and vice versa. Specifically, there exist risks influencing resilience. They may weaken the resistance of systems to dangers and leave them susceptible to serious failures. So the present work is an attempt to find the methods serving to assess those risks. And a variety of techniques, both qualitative and quantitative, is used for risk assessment. And at the top of the most popular tools list, the risk matrix is situated. And a usual risk matrix has several categories of probability, likelihood, or frequency for its rows or columns, and several categories of severity, impact, or consequences for its columns or rows, respectively. However, the attributes of the matrix proposed in this work are the impact of the risk on resilience matrix and the existence and efficiency of resilience plans. Now, let's move to the next section, which is the resilience matrix. So, researchers have suggested numerous metrics for measuring the resilience of different types of socio-technical systems. In our case, we will adopt some recurring terms and concepts in the definitions ascribed to resilience in different domains, which are adaptation, which can be described as any adjustment, whether passive, reactive, or anticipatory, that is proposed as a means for ameliorating the anticipated adverse consequences associated with any disturbance or undesirable change. Robustness, this is the ability of a system to deal with disturbances in order to keep its performance on a high level. Reliability, this is the probability that an element can carry out a required function in a given context within a certain time frame. Response capacity, it can be defined as the ability to promote responsiveness to challenges through reduced lead times with maintaining low costs. And recovery, this involves inhibiting the impacts of the disaster at the earliest possible date and addressing the immediate aftermath. So, in order to be able to evaluate the impact of a given risk, all those resilience indicators, the checklist, Likert type format presented in this table was designed. So, for each indicator, we have 3 questions with 5 possible answers: strongly agree, agree, undecided, disagree, and strongly disagree. So, here we have the 3 questions for adaptation, aiding for robustness, reliability, response capacity, and recovery. And regarding the impact on resilience metrics, we will adopt the notation shown in this table. So for strongly disagree, we have 5, disagree 4, undecided 3, agree 2, and strongly agree 1. So after having elaborated the method for evaluating the impact of a given risk on resilience metrics, we will now move to another key factor in maintaining resilience, namely resilience planning. Much research work has been undertaken to identify the different resilience tactics, strategies, or plans which should be put into effect when dealing with unwanted surprises. In order to assess the effectiveness of the available plans in an organization, we need to check the following points: if it is complete or not, if it is up to date, integrating the new changes or not, if it is tested or not, and if it is shared widely among the interested community or not. So, as has already been done for resilience metrics, the checklist is also proposed for resilience plans in this table. We have 5 questions related to the criteria of effective resilience plans previously mentioned, with 5 possible answers. And the notation is as follows: very poor 5, poor 4, acceptable 3, good 2, and very good 1. So since we now have all the pieces of the puzzle, we can introduce in the next section our proposed matrix. And here we go. So for very low, we have resilience unaffected, low resilience slightly menaced, medium resilience moderately menaced, high resilience heavily menaced, and extreme resilience exceedingly menaced. However, the reliability of this matrix is still needed to be proved through a practical case study. So our study will focus on analyzing, according to our proposed method, the risk factors that influence the chosen system, which is a leading company in the cosmetics business. The resilience of this system can be threatened by some risk factors which have to be identified and assessed. And here we provide an example of a technical data sheet explaining a risk factor. So here for the risk factor name, we have sourcing, category industrial and environmental risk, The description is that the company is dependent on its external suppliers for the delivery of materials that are essential for the manufacture of finished products, which may therefore suffer disruption as the result of a failure by an important supplier. The increasing world scarcity of resources and supplier dependency are the main causes of unavailability. So here we have the checklist filled in for this risk factor. Here we have the checklist for resilience metrics and also for resilience planning. And in summary, the results are consolidated in this table, and the analysis of those results is performed via R. So here in the table on the right, we have the 5-number summary of the resilience metrics. So as shown in this table, the mean of 2.467 and the median of 2 indicate that the location of the center of the data and the level of the impact of the risk factor sourcing on resilience metrics. And based on Q1 and Q3, 25% of values are below 1.5 and 75% of values are below 3.5. Therefore, the impact of the risk factor sourcing on resilience metrics corresponds to agree, since the median is associated with this answer. And this means that the disruption in sourcing has a low negative impact on resilience metrics. As per the 5-number summary for the resilience planning checklist, we see that the median is equal to 1. Hence, by referring to the risk matrix, the effectiveness of resilience planning is qualified as very good, since 1, the median is associated with this answer. Therefore, the risk factor sourcing is very low and resilience is unaffected. In other words, the probability that the company becomes less resilient if its sourcing is affected is very low. So, as a conclusion, this paper introduced a method that can be deployed to assess risk factors as per their impact on the system resilience. A matrix is developed and made available with the goal of ranking the risks in accordance with the threat they constitute to resilience. We presented the indicators that were held necessary for measuring resilience, and on the basis of these indicators, a checklist of 15 questions were prepared with 5 possible answers. We discussed the qualities of an effective resilience plan. This discussion brought us to establish a checklist through which we can rate the criteria with ranging from 1 very poor to 5 very good. The next step was to set up the resilience-based risk matrix. By making use of this matrix, we can identify the very low risks that don't affect resilience at all, the low ones that slightly minus resilience, the medium risks that moderately minus resilience, the high risks that heavily minus resilience, and extreme risks that exceedingly minus resilience. And in order to put this tool into practice, it was decided to assess one of the most concerning risk factors of a company which operates on a worldwide level and whose business environment is uncertain and volatile. Regarding the future work, we can say that the risk assessment represents only one stage of the resilience process. It generally takes place during normal operation in the absence of disturbances. What remains to be done is to define the functions of the resilience process in extraordinary circumstances, when the system is under disruptions, which are resistance, recovery, and anticipation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salwa Said, for this interesting presentation and time respected. So I ask the participants if you have questions. Any question? Yes? Do you have any question? So, Salwa, can I have a question? So, how much or what is the effective of your case study?
It's just that I took a risk factor of a company, which is a leading company in its sector. And then I have just fill in the checklist for resilience metrics and resilience planning to put into practice the risk matrix to evaluate the impact of the risk factor, which is the sourcing, on the resilience of this company.
So good. Do you in the future works?
Yes.
You can use data analysis to propose all of these criteria.
Sorry, could you please repeat the question,
For
please?
the checklist you used in this study, to be better to use data analysis such as CPA or multiple corresponding analysis to superpose all these criteria which can be interpreted, or you will interpret and comment this criteria and validate it.
Yes, yes. In the future work, when we will describe the whole resilience process, which is the part of the ordinary circumstances, which is the risk assessment for anticipation, and then for resistance and recovery, we will use those methods to put into practice those checklists and this risk matrix. Yes, but this study case is just a simple one, just for testing the risk matrix. It's just for this work, but for the future work, we will try to use the advanced methods.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers and for the presentation. And now we move to the second presentation of Zakaria Shkoubi. Zakaria?
Oui, professeur Gouskir, bonjour.
Thank you very much. So you please share your presentation entitled the Integrated Production Inventory Routine Problem with Remanufacturing Under Carbon Cap and Trade. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Could you please see if my slides are available in the screen?
Not yet. So you can activate or enable the presentation, please. Not Microsoft Teams.
Yes, I work on the presentation. So now I share my desktop.
Yes.
Please confirm that my presentation is here.
So when you click on share, you choose the first option of desktop.
Okay. And now?
Yes, now it's good.
Thank you.
Make it on screen, please.
Yes, it's done. Good morning, everybody. I hope you are safe. So today I will present you our contribution entitled The Integrated Production Inventory Routine Problem with Manufacturing under Cap and Trade Policy. This is the outline of my presentation. First, I will discuss the context and the motivation behind our research work, then a literature review in order to situate our work regarding existing ones. Then I will describe and formulate mathematically the considered problem. After that, I will discuss the computational experiment carried out, as well as obtain the results. And finally, I will finish the presentation with conclusion, including future research work. As you know, today, the growing concerns about the environmental impacts of industrial activities, in particular carbon emissions, have led the emergence of carbon control policies in the context of green logistics. Therefore, policymakers have started to develop policies such as cap and trade policy in order to regulate and control carbon emissions while ensuring an effective operational performance. Also, companies have implemented more integrated planning systems in which the production, inventory, and routine activities are optimized in order to enhance synchronization, reduce product costs, and improve service level. On the other hand, restrictions of applicable government in laws on recycled products in waste disposal have become increasingly strong, without forgetting the stiff competition between firms regarding the economic advantages behind the recovery of residual value of end-of-life products. All these facts have encouraged us to solve emission problems arising in integrated production inventory distribution systems in the context of reverse logistics. So, in order to respond to this optimization problem, we have considered the closed-loop supply chain network illustrated in the figure, and which consists of one type of product, a production line of new products, a manufacturing line, a stock to hold manufactured and manufactured products, a stock to hold recovered products, dispatched customers with dynamic delivery and collection requests, a homogeneous fleet of vehicles with limited capacity, and a finite horizon planning with a number of time periods. We make the general assumption, the following general assumption: end-of-life products returned in the manufactured are of the same quality of manufactured one, and all considered operations release carbon emissions. In order to model the problem raised, we have considered a new variant of the classical integrated production inventory routine problem by taking account of manufacturing of end-of-life products, as well as the regulation of carbon emission under cap and trade policy, and the global problem becomes the integrated production inventory routine problem, whether manufacturing under cap and trade policy. The aim of this problem is to determine an optimal integrated manufacturing or manufacturing inventory in the routine plan with simultaneous delivery and pickup under cap and trade policy in order to minimize the total cost due to these operations as well as their emissions. According to the conducted literature review, we could notice that the majority of recent related research works addressing the integrated production inventory routine problem in the context of reverse logistics are many-to-many based problems with direct shipment and ignore vehicle routine problem aspect as well as the carbon cap and trade policy. This is why our work tends to fill this research gap. Let us now move to the problem description in mathematical formulation. So first, I will start with the notation used over all models. Let G be a complete directed graph network. N is the set of all nodes. Note that the node 0 represents the central plant. NC is the set of customers' nodes, and E is the set of arcs. T is the horizon planning, and K is the set of vehicle. Here we have the parameters related to manufacturing system and the manufacturing system. We have also considered the vehicle routine related parameters in which we can decompose in parameters related to the dynamics of vehicles as well as those related to characteristics of the fleet of vehicles. We have also emission related parameters and those related to the customers' requests. Here we have the decision variables. So we have to decide the amount of products to be manufactured or manufactured, and when we can manufacture in our manufacture, and also the level of inventories, mainly for the new products and the returns ones. Also, we have to decide the amount of delivered requests on and pickup requests in each period. And finally, we have to decide the sequence of visiting customers by a given vehicle in a given period. Before presenting the global model, I will introduce the integrated production inventory routing problem or the manufacturing and simultaneous pickup and delivery emissions models, which will serve as basic models for the global one. For the integrated production inventory routing problem or the manufacturing and the simultaneous pickup and delivery, the objective function aims to minimize the total integrated cost of manufacturing or manufacturing, holding setup and fixed in variable transportation costs as illustrated by this by the following objective function. This objective function is subject to some constraints, namely the inventory flow balance equations, the initial inventory conditions, and the storage capacity of serviceable and return products. We have also considered the restriction on manufacturing and the manufacturing systems capacities. Also, we have considered the classical vehicle routing problem constraints. We make the assumption that all customers' delivery and pickups demands should be satisfied, and the total load on a given vehicle shouldn't exceed its capacity, and the delivery and pickup loads on the first and the last arcs should be null. And finally, we have the binary integrality and non-negativity constraints. Now, in order to integrate all carbon emissions from involved operations, we need to model these emissions. Regarding carbon emissions from manufacturing or manufacturing and inventory in a given period, they can be modeled as shown in equation E. And by using carbon price, PC, and manufacturing or manufacturing and inventory carbon cap A1, we can integrate and control these emissions and the objective function of the previous model. Note that the last term of these objective functions denotes the potential costs or benefits on manufacturing holding and setup related emissions under the cap and trade policy. Now, regarding emissions from vehicle routing, they can be modeled according to the equation B, and by considering the carbon cap E2 on vehicle routing emissions, we can develop a pollution routing model under cap and trade policy as follows. Once again, the last term of this objective function denotes the potential costs or benefits on vehicle routing related emissions under the cap and trade policy. We can now formulate the integrated production inventory routing problem with the manufacturing and the cap and trade policy as the sum of the last two previous models, subject to the already mentioned constraints. As a proposition, we can demonstrate that the APRP RCT is NP hard. Let us now move to the computational study. I first start with the instances generation. So the mixed integer linear program formulation was implemented in Java Eclipse using concept technology and was solved by the commercial solver CPX from IBM. All performance tests have been carried out on randomly generated instances based on adapted data from the literature combined with the parameters related to manufacturing, pickup requests, and carbon emissions. for a given number of customers, a total of 4 combinations are obtained based on different values of some parameters, namely the number of time periods, the existence of 2 scenarios for pickup requests, mainly high and low, and for each combination of these parameters with different requests and node coordinates were generated for each type of instance. A total of 96 instances were generated and tested by our MILP formulation. The table 1 here illustrates the values of parameters used to generate random instances, and table 2 illustrates values of parameters related to carbon emissions. Let us now move to the numerical results. From the first numerical results obtained from Simplex solver, we can observe that the integrated model is sensitive to the number of customers as well as the number of periods. In fact, the solver was able to solve to optimality all instances with 5 customers, whatever the number of period times. However, Simplex was able to find feasible solution for almost problems with a number of customers greater than or equal to 10. This observation can be explained by the fact that the developed model induces a large number of decision variables, and also by the fact that it considers the joint optimization and the cap and trade policy of the capacity dynamic loss sizing problem with the manufacturing and the vehicle routing problem with simultaneous pickup and delivery. Each of them is NP hard. This is a strong proof that we need to develop an approximate method in order to find better solutions for medium and large scale problems. My presentation touched its end. So a non-environmental variant of the integrated production inventory routing problem of the manufacturing was developed, mainly the one under cap and trade policy, considering emissions throughout the overall supply chain network. A mathematical formulation was proposed and the computational study was conducted. Computational results indicate that the integrated model is too sensitive to the size of problems. And as future work, we actually work on a 2-phase iterative decomposition heuristics in order to tackle the problem and to solve medium and large scale problems. We intend also to extend our model by integrating some realistic situations, namely including heterogeneous fleet of vehicles in order to reduce transport costs, as well as including uncertainty of customers' pickup and delivery. Also, we intend to perform a sensitivity analysis in order to highlight the influence of model K parameters like carbon price, fuel price on supply chains performance indicators, including total costs, operational costs, and emission levels. These are the references, the significant references used in our contribution. And I thank you for your attention. Please feel free if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Zakaria. If you have any question.
Yes, I have a question, please.
Yes, Michel.
Okay, thank you very much, Zakaria. It's very interesting presentation. I want just to back to slide number 17, please.
Yes, of course.
The last term of objective function, what is it?
The last term of the function.
The last term of objective function, yeah.
So here we have.
It is a penalty, a term of penalty,
yes.
or just a simple cost?
If we pass a limit of emission, it will be counted as a cost. But if we don't attain the cap in emission, we can solve these emissions. So it will be a profit.
Okay. That's meaning
This is the
you're
cap and trade policy. This is the principle of cap and trade policy.
okay. That's meaning your PC is fixed. No.
The emission cap is fixed, but the emissions of operations, they can be variables.
Okay. And okay, in order to solve this problem, you have used the simplex. Simplex is an exact method.
Yes.
So you have to use to look for meta heuristic.
Exactly. So firstly, we have test the model in simplex in order to detect the limits of our model. We found that the model or simplex was unable to solve instances with more than 10 customers. So the next step, as mentioned in the research in the perspective, should be to develop an approximate method. Namely, we work in a two-phase iterative heuristics, which consists on decomposing the problem into two phases with a procedure of a local amelioration. So we work in.
Okay, and did you didn't think to Vienna's method now?
Variable
Neighbor search, yeah.
No, because from the conducted literature, almost methods to tackle this problem, they use decomposition heuristics because the problem is too hard. But it should be a potential direction.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your.
Thank you very much, Hisham. Do others? Any other question? So, Zakaria, I have a question for time consuming to generate results in simplex tools. How much or what is the time consuming of your mathematical yes?
Okay, Mr. Guskir. So we have fixed a total time of 1 hour in 2 hours.
Good.
So we judge that a reasonable time to solve is about 1 hour to 2 hours. If it depasses the time limit of 1 or 2 hours, so we need to develop approximate methods.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank
for
you, Mr.
Thank you. And now we have to move to the third presentation of Brahim Jabir.
Hi, Amir. Give me a moment, please.
Brahim Jabir, please share your presentation on detailed digital agriculture in Morocco, opportunities and challenges. The floor is yours.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, good.
Hi, everyone. I am Brahim Jabir, PhD student in the University of Sultan Moulay Slimane. I have the pleasure to be here to present my paper entitled Digital Agriculture in Morocco, Opportunities and Challenges. This paper highlighting the literature review about transformation digital in agriculture. It's supervised by Mr. Nordin Faleh and professor in policy planning faculty in Sultan Moulay Slimane University. So my work and my paper is presented as follow. I will start with an introduction, then I will shed light on the state of the art, in which I will treat this concept of digitalization and its opportunities, including the state of digitalization in Morocco. After that, I'm going to show the section about the life of information-based management. Another part in this work comes to shed light on the problematic dealt with and challenges encountered, then solutions proposed to finish with a conclusion. Today's agriculture is changing paradigm. It has moved from recent agriculture codified by the reference framework, taking into account environmental protection, consumer health, towards a digital agriculture measured and guided by data. Measurement and diagnosis can be done by fixed or mobile sensor, by eye, by other device digital. This new philosophy centered on agriculture data has been expressed with many several names. Digital agriculture, digital for agriculture for digital farming, smart farming, and was born when various telematics systems and data management were combined to the already known concept of precision agriculture, improving accuracy of many operations. Our articles, we discussed how to capture data using wireless sensors and decision support software to help users to make decisions. We are especially interested in monitoring known natural phenomena in our region about irrigation. Another section which is important, it is the state of the art, in which we discussed and we treated summary of opportunities and of digitalizations of agriculture stated in our article, in which we illustrated all of its opportunities since the appearance of this concept of digitalization. So this digitalization, it can offer a gain in productivity, process a lot of information in a very short time, better understand situations, save times, help farmers to better manage their passes. Farmers become also real managers. He is in contact with his distributors, etc. So, since our studies are centered and limited territorially, it is especially in Morocco, it is necessary to shed light on the state of digitalizations in Morocco. And what interests us a lot is technique and tools used in this context. So among those tools used in this area, we will quote first digitalizations at service of breeding, digitalizations at service of irrigation, digitalizations serving a garden farm, and drones. Those all techniques and tools used in agriculture digital in Morocco. This paragraph illustrates and explains cycle life embodies a general data-driven management system for advanced agriculture. As the picture shows, third step is data collections with several types of sensors. The second step is data modeling. Then there comes step of reasoning and distribution, and finally decision making. This table shows three types of sensors that we will use to collect data. There are three types: physical sensors, virtual, and logical sensors. So sensors or wireless network sensors technology refers to a group of specially dispersed and dedicated sensors for monitoring and recording physical conditions of the environment and organisms collected data at central location. Various applications of wireless sensor network include environmental monitoring, natural disaster prediction, and home appliance, covering many domains like agriculture. Sensor network comprising sensing as well as computing facilities, in which helps the administrator in observing and reacting to the events and phenomena in specific environments. Those systems are built with nodes, as paragraphs show, where each node is connected to one or sometimes several sensors. Each such sensor network node has typically several parts, as a radio transceiver with an internal antenna or connection to an external antenna, microcontroller, an electronic circuit for interfacing with sensors and energy sources, usually a battery or embedded form of energy harvesting. This stage of data modeling concerns processes that collect data need to be modeled and represented according to significant manner. For example, adding semantic and metadata to the value of wind, air, humidity, smoke. There are 6 most popular context modeling techniques: K-value, graphical, markup scheme, logic-based, object-based, and ontology-based modeling. Data reasoning. So model data needs to be managed and processed to drive high-level context information from low-level context. List below presents the comparison of these 3 context reasoning decision modeling techniques. Context reasoning could deduce new knowledge, which could be understood better based on the available context. This part is deduce high-level context, get the result, for example, of plants or of irrigation, etc. Another step is distribution and adaptation. So this context requires to be allocated to the consumers who are interested in context. Context distribution process sends an alert message to the alarm and prior systems, for example, which are context consumers. Distribution is based on real-time processing. Another stage comes, which is adaptation, to trigger action based on the recognized high-level context. Adaptation can be defined as a combination of these 3 conceptual entities: monitoring entity, adaptation policy, adaptive mechanism. So the problem in which we are interested and problematic identified is about irrigation. Irrigation represents an important issue in terms of added value in deployment. The irrigated areas in Morocco, especially in Benin region, are stable according to the many studies, although water consumption for this purpose is on decline, which will reduce the resource while increasing demand for irrigation. So a quantitative management of irrigation water has become necessary. In this context, wireless sensors constitute a first-rate tool for a better understanding those phenomena by providing real-time measurement essential for optimal management of agriculture plots. Wireless allow remote monitoring of large geographic areas without infrastructure, without the need for extensive cabling, and allow the detection of many localized parameters as temperature, humidity, detection of frost, flowers, etc. In a very short period, this data is sent to a decision center, which can act in an automated way by sending remote commands. So, challenges encountered is the design and implementation of a wireless sensors network for monitoring agricultural environment. The nodes in this system always work under different environmental conditions, and it's a challenge in establishing a wireless network. Many manager challenges are to be overcome within the framework of this work. The first challenge is material. Sensor node must operate in different climates, as the rain, as sun. In addition, these sensors nodes should be expensive. Another major factor is that the applications implemented in sensor node must be non-greedy in terms of the use of computing power and energy, because sensors are supplied autonomously with batteries, and therefore the lifespan sensor node is equal to the lifespan of the battery. On the other hand, network routing protocols and radio channel sharing technique must take into account specificity of network systems. and needs to be in quality of service terms. Indeed, the interfaces and applications developed must be user-friendly. In other words, the interfaces must be easy to use by farmers who have little knowledge of computer systems. Our project also aims to develop mobile applications embedded in terminals such as smartphones, tablets, allowing nomadic and continuous access to data by technicians in the field. Third challenge arises at the level of the decision model, which first consists in specifying the agronomic model as a multi-criteria mathematical optimization problem with constraint. Therefore, we will understand the resolution of this optimization problem to provide farmer the developed interface with recommendations to improve his predictions. Finally, the project also addresses the problem of deploying of sensors, which presents many theoretical and practical challenges that can come in various forms in design phases and other designers. There are many research questions which are how to understand and analyze and interpret data generated by sensors, how to prepare and treat sensory data gathered, how to solve heterogeneity problems of sensors, how to apply analytics to the collected data. Can a sensor that are installed in a relatively small number of plants provide data that represents the entire field, etc. So we proposed some solutions. Is mainly composed our project or our future or our proposed solutions is mainly composed from two parts. The first component is design of the wireless sensor nodes that meet the needs of target applications, namely irrigation in agriculture in our region. A sensor node consists essentially of processing model, a transmission model and capture model containing sensor adequate, like a sensor of humidity, sensor of wind, precipitation, rainfall, temperature, water levels, etc. Advanced co-design approach should be used for design of the sensor node with reduced size, low cost, and with extended autonomy. Another line of work is designing and development of the programs, which must be implemented and integrated at the level of sensor nodes. The role of those algorithms is, for example, to harmonize data collection as required, to route data collected to the base station to execute others received, etc. In addition, application of the algorithms, other network, other algorithms are required for system operation, such as routing algorithms, security algorithms. The different algorithms installed at sensor level must be licensed. The latter presents constraints in terms of resources. We will address in particular the problem of an optimal deployment of the sensors in order to ensure the coverage of the agrarian surface by using the minimum possible of sensors. We take into account the network connectivity and quality of services as minimize interference and collisions between packets, reduce delay from end to between sensors and sync. The approach that will be adopted consists in modeling and formalizing the problem, then trying to solve it using different techniques of linear programming or algorithms of machine learning. Second part is the software part, where it will be a question of developing visualization model and decision support model. Regarding to the visualization model, we will approach design and development of adequate interfaces for counter and monitoring of the agriculture area. Decision support model will be developed from a prior study of various economic models available in the literature in order to propose a model dedicated to targeted agriculture by proposing efficient algorithms to calculate the best decision in relation to the data collected at the level of sensor. The interface developed must be help farmer for decision making by using decision model. Finally, different algorithms and protocols developed during this time will be evaluated and validated on special simulators such as NS2, Omnet++, etc. As conclusion, there are various issues and challenges while designing architecture that can collect data in this field of agriculture. Certain issues are discussed in our paper. We described also the main tools used in this context as the opportunities and challenges of this transformation. We conclude with some propositions. Our new future approach and work should be designing and collecting data from the field, which will be original data that will help us to contribute in this field of transformation of agriculture. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim. And now I ask if you have any question about this presentation. There is any question? So, Mr. Ibrahim, thank you for the presentation, and I want to ask you a question. So, do you think to use an operational research algorithm to optimize the criteria set in this study?
Yes, so we think about using decision tree in the machine learning, for example, to get a prediction.
Yes,
that is our future contribution after collecting and gathering data from the field.
Okay, thank you for this presentation. And now we have to move to the fourth presentation of Mohsin Ghafal. Mohsin, I think, is not here with us. The next presentation is for Shayma Mansef. Shayma?
Do you hear me?
Yes, good.
So, hello.
So
I will share my presentation.
Thank you. So the presentation is entitled Blood Collection Supply Chain Management, a critical review and future perspective.
Monsieur Gusker, I'm sorry, I think that I have a problem with the connection.
Yeah.
It's Ibrahim Jabir. Monsieur Gusker, please excuse me a moment. It's Ibrahim Jabir. I have a problem with connection.
So we for the presentation it was well and
okay.
I think there is no problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
So,
I start?
Yeah. You can start.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Shayma Mansef, and I'm a PhD student in Information Technology Management from INSEAD Rabat, Morocco. I would like to start by stating a fact that there is a severe blood shortage in Morocco, and indeed the director of the National Center for Blood and Transfusion in 2018 noted that the number of blood donations collected each year does not meet in the increase in the demand. And even last year, 2019, the National Center for Blood and Transfusion noted announced that it will not be satisfied with the 1% target of population, which is the minimum rate recommended by World Health Organization to meet the necessary blood product need. So instead, the center wants to increase annual blood donation by 4% to reach by 2025 a percentage of blood collection equal to 2% of the population of the country. So today I would like to present to you the following topic: blood collection supply chain management, a critical review, and future perspective. The outline is as follows. The first, I start by introduction. Then in the first section, I'll explain the blood collection supply chain. In the second part of the presentation, I propose the classification of blood collection supply chain problems. And finally, I'll give some concluding remarks. The introduction itself is divided into three parts. The first part is importance of blood collection, then complexity of blood supply chain, and the third part is objectives that we have to show you overview of operational research and management science problematic faced by the blood collection supply chain. But before that, I like to present to you the main blood product. As you see in this figure, breakdown of a blood product in percentage. So the plasma represents 55% of the whole blood. And next is a red blood cells that represent 34%. And the last one is white blood cells and platelets that represent 1%. So the first part is the importance of blood collection. The blood collection is a major area of interest within the field of healthcare, and it's one of the most significant contributions that a person can make toward the society. An adequate blood donor is of a key importance of the entire blood transfusion chain, and without blood donor, there would be no blood product transfusion and no plasma donation for pharmaceutical drug production. And generally, the blood supply chain is a complex system, as there are many factors that can impact it. And for previous research considered several characteristics of a blood product, such as the risk of a healthcare system, availability of supply, demand fluctuation to balance demand and supply, blood short lifetime, and costs incurred during the process of the collection supply chain. And these problems create significant challenges to the blood supply chain management. The products such as the blood and blood component, or we can call blood component or blood product, with a finite lifetime that are subject of to perishability, are important to manage carefully. And the outdated product take a time and the cost required, or even worse, to destroy. So in this paper, we have delimited our research into just not all the whole blood supply chain, but just in the first stage, that is the blood collection. For the objectives, we aim two goals in this paper. The first goal is to investigate supply chain management in the blood collection, and the second is to find the option for optimizing the blood collection supply chain by reviewing and analyzing existing literature in the topic. And we can find detailed review of selected article is presented on slide 13. The blood collection supply chain. The collection stage is include the process of procurement of blood and blood products. And this is the first echelon of the whole blood supply chain. And its purpose is to obtain the quantity of blood and blood product required to meet the demand. The first part of this blood collection is to have to do the donor selection. But before that, we have to do something like donors classification that is used to support the decision-making process in the whole blood collection supply chain. And the aim of classification is to identify the important feature to donor population. And to do selection, you must know your current donor, as your new donor are most likely to resemble your current donor, and as you want to retain donors as long as possible to improve safety of blood and of splay. So the new we have here, we show the figure that we have splay donor. We classify the different donor into new donor, that is the first time donor. We can call it first time donor. That is someone who has made his or her first donor and to date only one donation. For regular donor is someone who recently gave blood within the last 2 years in the same donation center. For repeat donor is someone who has donated before but not within the last 2 years in the same blood donation. For returning donor is someone who has made last 2 donations and has made only 1 donation within the last 12 months. So once the donor have made their decision, they can go to the registration. But before that, we can do the donation at fixed center or at mobile blood unit, such as temporary blood center that we call a TBC, or governmental organization, or at a public event. In the registration, we can register personal information such as the name, gender, age, etc. We can do medical health diagnostic, and we pass to eligibility exam. If the donor is eligible, then can go to donation process. That can last approximately 8 to 12 minutes, and after that the donors go out of the donation room into a recovery room, and the donor is advised to stay over there for an average time of 15 minutes, although he or she is free to leave at all time. And at the donation process, we have 2 techniques for donation. That is apheresis, that we can separate blood component, and the whole blood, that we can donate the whole blood. The blood collection problem. So we review works which address the blood collection supply chain problems or similar operational resource problems. And the articles we consider in this paper are published between 1976 and 2018. And the only paper devoted to node management of a blood collection problem have been retained. We ended up with a total set of 48 total. And this problem can be classified according to 4 problematic. The first is the blood sample collection problem, location routine problem, donor appointment, and blood collection in disaster and emergency. And I will show you in the next slides some of the authors that have studied this problematic. For blood sample collection, we have found Grasses and all in 2014. They studied the blood sample collection problem, where the samples were collected and transported to the lab by the courier service. They used the technique of courier service. They designed the collection routes in a cost-efficient manner while satisfying a 2-hour time window between collection and delivery and vehicle capacity. For method and solution, they used a heuristic method based on genetic algorithm that has been designed to solve the blood sample collection problem. We can find also in the same problematic Alouf and al. In 2016. They studied the problem of optimizing of blood sample collection with the timing and quality constraint. The main goal of this study is to obtain the optimal number of vehicles to be deployed and the scheduling of the pickup process. They use it for the method and solution a mixed integer programming MAP problem. For the second problematic, we can found Sadikovic and all in 2018. They studied the problem of location routing or LRP. They shows that the effective of the main of the chain is influenced by two contradictory factors. The first is the number of clinics that should be active to satisfy all customers' demand, and the number of the vehicle that should be used to deliver the collected sample to the testing lab in timely and in cost-effective manner. The usage for the method and solution approach based on a combination of vehicle routing heuristic with the polynomial time approximation scheme. In the third problematic, that is donor appointment, we can find Mubashir and all in 2015. They analyzed a collection and the meeting scheduling in the nation states. They optimizing the use of human and material resource. They're reducing the waiting time of donor. And for method and solution, they use the mixed variable programming model, heuristic algorithm based on integer programming. And for the first problematic, that is blood collection in disaster and emergency, we can find the day and all in 2012. They believe that the emergency supply of blood in natural and disaster has proved challenging, and they propose a multi-objective covering basic location model for emergency service, such as an ambulance. For the model, they aim at maximizing the population covered by vehicles, maximizing the population with backup coverage, and increasing the service level by minimizing the total distance traveled from selected location to cover all zones. So this table is show the blood classification of a blood collection problem, of the various problems, and including the planning, scheduling, problem dealing with the donation, donor appointment, supply, and emergency. That is just a short screenshot of the whole table. To sum up, blood collection management research can be seen as an effective and dynamic study. Many studies which appear annually propose a variety of themes, aspects, and methodology. And this variety offers great opportunity to develop research on operational resource and management science in the blood supply chain. We begin with donation promotion, donor motivation, donor access, and eligibility, because we found less discussion in the literature. And furthermore, the enhancement of the planning and optimizing of the blood supply chain necessitates taking into account the blood collection decision-making process at different levels, such as strategic, tactical, and operational. And we believe in our project that is this efficient and optimized the blood chain represent an important added value for the entire healthcare system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaima. And now for the presentation. Now I ask participants of this session if you have any question. Do you have any question? So, Mrs. Shaima, I want to ask you how can a genetic algorithm solve the problem of blood collection? So how can you use it to solve this problem?
First of all, we have delimited our research project in the blood collection phase, and we have presented to you the overview of operational research and management science. For the methods on operational research, we have presented many solutions and approaches, and for now we have not decided to the approach that we can choose in our research. We are on process.
So did you start the practice part of to testing this proposition?
Yeah, I think it's a good choice to choose this method for the solution of blood collection.
Okay, thank you for this presentation, and now we have to move to the other participants. So Amin Hadiq.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So Amin Hadiq, please share your desktop and share with us your presentation entitled Impact of Lean on the Optimization of the Professional Insertion Process of Newly Recruited Engineers. The floor is yours.
You see my screen? It's good?
Not yet. I think we see just Microsoft Teams. Yeah.
Okay, it's I think now it's good. Tell me when it's okay
Yes,
for you.
Good. You can start.
Okay, so dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Amin Adek. I'm very pleased to present my paper in this qualified international conference. I take this opportunity to thank all organization team for its considerable effort to ensure the successful continuity of this important event for our scientific community, despite this difficult problem that the world is suffering from. So let's hope it's disappear with the minimum of damage. The title of my presentation is Impact of Lean on the Optimization of the Professional Insertion Process of Newly Recruited Engineers, carried out by team of research in engineering education at INSEM Casablanca. Now let's show you the plan of this presentation. First of all, we will introduce the objective of this study. Then we will present Lean and its principles. After that, we show you our methodology. Then we will describe the study context, then the benefits and construct of the study. We also will present the Lean implementation steps and summarize the achieved results. And finally, conclusion and perspective. In order to be competitive and proactive, compared with the market demand, companies are currently moving toward the adoption of Lean approach aimed at improving work performance by using available resources. The strategy is based on the reduction of waste in the company's process in order to respond perfectly to the changing requirements of customers at lower cost. The objective of this study is to show the impact of Lean approach on the optimization of the professional insertion process of newly recruited engineers in a multinational company based in Morocco. The Lean is based on 5 important principles that are value, refer to the definition of the value preserved by the customer for whom the service of the product is intended. Value stream means the identification of the waste generated by the process. Flow refers to the construction of flow made up of value-added steps. Pull is the transition from a push flow where production is launched independently to the demand to a pull flow that exactly meets the customer's requirements. Perfection, where the company should be engaged in a strategy of continuous improvements. In the Lean approach, we can identify 3 kinds of waste. Muda, it includes all the activities that don't bring any added value, delay in productive, for example, traveling, transportation, quality defects, useless stock, etc. Muri is the reflect waste generated by a wrong definition of the need. For example, the use of an oversized means in relation to the real need expressed. And finally, Mura, it refers to the process irregularities and variation. The study focuses on the implementation of lean approach in the professional integration process of engineers in a multinational company operating in Morocco. In order to carry out this study, we adopted the DMAIC approach: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Define the boundaries of the process to be improved, search for reference data, and examine their impact on creating the value as defined by customers. Measure, that means search for measurable data characterizing the process and measure the existing situation. Analyze, identify the root causes of process dysfunction and source of improvements. Improve, that means improve the target process by developing creative solutions to solve and prevent problems. The objective of this step is to develop, implement, and validate the most effective solution. And finally, control, that means define indicators to measure the performance of the target process and the relevance of the improvement solution implemented. The time taken in the professional integration process of newly recruited engineers is too long, and the existed process is not optimized due to the number of waste generated. We propose to solve this problem by adopting a lean approach. The integration process of the integration process is defined according to the following step: requirements. So requirement process, that means selection of candidates, interviewing, validation of new recruits, welcoming of newly recruits, and presentation of training program, and theoretical and practical training course, and finally skills evaluation. The identification of profits and constraints is an essential step in any improvement process. For that, we adopt the SWOT analysis to identify the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats of lean implementation in the company context. Thanks to different meetings organized with the project team, I mean team leaders, specialists, top management, technical staff, we have defined all the project aspects in the company context according to the results shown in this table. In order to implement the lean approach on the integration process of newly recruited engineers, we have used a set of lean tools such as CPOC to define parameters of the process: output, input, supplier, and customer. 5Y to define the problem. By answering the question who, what, where, when, how, and why. Gantt diagram to ensure the follow-up and scheduling and visualization in time of the various tasks composing the project. Project risk to anticipate the main risk factors and put in place a preventive action plan to ensure the good progress of the project. 5Y enable to identify the root causes of a problem by asking the question why several times. Weighted voting to measure employee satisfaction with the process after implementation of a lean approach. And finally, a brainstorming, which are problem-solving meeting in the presence of different process stakeholders. This method was used in our study to resolve collectively the problem that block or delay the integration process of new recruits. The implementation of lean approach in the integration process of new recruited engineers in a multinational company based in Morocco allowed us to detect a set of waste that we have eliminated or reduced in order to optimize the process and improve the quality of the training of new engineering. The following table illustrates the improvement generated by lean approach implementation. For example, the first one is is the lack of technical interview of technical interview standards. The suggested improvement is the production of technical interview guides. The second one is the lack of the requirements history. So we have created a requirements history database, and for reduce the time taken by new recruit to look for information about organization, for example, and its useful service, IT department, human resource, etc. We have created a welcome pack, which is represented by guide and by guides and flyer containing all this useful information. And to remove the lack of monitoring of the integration process, we have created a checklist of monitoring this process. Also, to reduce the lack of automotive technical culture among newly graduated engineering, we have integrated the automotive technical culture access in the training program. The implementation of lean approach in the integration process of newly recruited engineers in a multinational company based in Morocco has generated important benefits and profits, which are appreciated by the company management staff. For that, we use the lean approach tools that we have adapted to the company context. In needed to have good results from this approach, it is essential to know how to adapt it to the context of the organization. In this study, we followed each steps of the DMAIC in a rational and methodological way. Considerable profits have been generated after the implementation of the improvement actions. In order to deal with the economic crisis, Moroccan companies must adopt lean principles based on promoting participative management without waste and optimizing the process using the available resource. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Amin, for this presentation. And I ask the participants if they have a question. Do you have any question? So, I mean, I just know if the approach of lean management is their originality, and so I think it's used the first time for the production management.
Yes. The lean is the lean manufacturing. We know the lean manufacturing. Now the lean management, it starts in Europe. I think 5 years now from now. But me, I take this subject, this object to implement the lean in the Moroccan organization. So I start with my company, because I am team leader on Moroccan company in Casablanca. So my needs is to implement the approach lean in the education, because my these is lean education. and I study the benefits that if we can implement the lean on the education with the available resource, we can improve our education and our training of new recruits and new engineering.
Good. There is many problems to adaptive this approach to other area or to other, for example, to the education or to the requirements, or just there is a models which can we use to adaptive this approach.
The first thing is the culture. We must adaptate the culture, and we must have this culture of improvements. And we must the first step is to do some presentation of all stakeholders to have this culture of improvements, to change, because now you know that for example in Morocco it's difficult to change culture. We have the traditional culture, and the lean, the principle of the lean is to change the way to reduce the waste. So to change the way is not possible. So we must have and adapt this approach with the context of our country, for example.
So okay, good. So for lean, how can we import the data? So or to collect data?
We must use the tools of the lean. For example, me, I use a list of tools. For example, the first one is CEPOC. CEPOC is to identify the process, the output, input with the question. Brainstorming, we have to have the team of the lean, a team, the member of the team, that we must go and take this data from le terrain, du terrain.
Okay.
Voilà. So we must start by definition of the process. When we have this definition of the process, we have to define the value. When we define the value, we can do some brainstorming to know where is the step in the process which which represent the waste, and then we can propose some solution to reduce or to remove this waste, so we can have a process optimize process.
Thank you, Mr. Amin, and for this clear session. Donc, now I ask if there is Zakaria or Muhsin Rafal, ID 93. So it's the last participant. So thank you, everybody. It's the end of this session, and I thank all the participants who have present their papers, and I wish you a good luck for the future works and future professional works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guskir.
Thank you.